Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. So it's been almost exactly a year since we posted our very first video on our YouTube channel of our shop tour, which got a lot of hits. So we wanted to give you another chance to see what's new and what's changed. So welcome back to the shop. Here we go. So we'll start off back in the gun shop, where I am currently working on a feathered Damascus dagger for the Historic Arkansas Museum. We'll have a complete video of this build on our YouTube channel soon, but I can give you a little sneak peek. It's a raw Arkansas diamond mounted in there, all sterling silver on the handguard, and silver going up onto the blade with a little bit of engraving there. Really happy with the way this is turning out, and the oak burl handle really dresses it up. I'm actually about to glue that together or permanently attach the handle. So the one tool I use more than any other on every project is my vise. This is a post vise, or a blacksmith's vise. Some people call it a leg vise because it's got the leg that goes down to the block of wood. This absorbs shock whenever you hammer on it. Instead of tearing your tabletop up, the shock goes down the leg. So that's why I guess it was originally made for blacksmiths. Well, second only to the hammer and the vise, the other tool that I use more than anything is files. Rough files, fine files, half round files, rat tail files, triangular files, safe edge files, you name it. I use a lot of files. If you remember from our first tour, we have the lathe over here. So my Craftsman mini lathe. This is a machinist or metal turning lathe, but you can also turn softer materials like wood, bone, and horn. This comes in handy a lot, especially making hand guards or screws for my rifles or pistols. This is actually a section of old musket barrel that I was cutting into pieces for making hand guards. So that's another invaluable piece in the shop. Right now I'm also working on repairing one of my boys' guitar. Snapped at the neck here, so I had to disassemble and rebuild that, so I've got to refinish it. And let's check out the leatherworking shop. This is where Chelsea spends most of her time. It looks like she's looking through her scrap leather bin for some pieces right now. And this is her workstation, where she spends most of her time, all of her tools and punches and snaps and rivets. This is a machine that I got for her almost a year ago now. It's called the Boss Hand Stitcher, one crank, one stitch. Will sew up to 3/4 of an inch thick leather. She really loves it, has been using the heck out of it, and it's been performing well. So here's some stuff that we currently have available on our Etsy store. If you haven't seen that yet, be sure to go and check it out. This is one of my favorite items that we have right now. This is a motorcycle bag for the handlebars up front to keep your paperwork and whatever you want to carry in. She built one for her brother originally, and he loved it, and she enjoyed building it, so she decided to build another one. That thing is one of a kind. So yeah, check out our Etsy store if you haven't already. We'll move on past the mule harness. This is a antebellum or pre-Civil War cabinet that I am currently working on restoring. I inherited it from a good friend of mine. After he passed, his son was good enough to offer it to me. You can see it's all held together with pegs. It's an assortment of different kinds of wood. I'm not sure what this top piece is, but we've got oak in the doors, old style skeleton key lock on there, and the wood in the back you can see axe and adze marks on, which means it was hand hewn a long time ago. So getting that fixed up. One of my favorite parts about it is it was used as a bureau originally, but also as a gun cabinet. It's got all these hand carved hooks for hanging either clothing or shooting bags and powder horns from. Really neat old piece. So we'll go on and check out the blacksmith shop now. Still have our assortment of hammers and hot cuts and punches on the wall. Old beer keg quenching tank. It's my great-grandfather's hay bud and anvil that I've used for a long time. And the good old coal forge with a hand cranked blower. And this is the coal that I use. It comes from Virginia, and it's some really good clean stuff. You can see how shiny it is. That's usually a good indication, and in great workable sized chunks as well. But this is a piece of green coal closest to us. You see it's hard, solid, and shiny. And it has, you know, the consistency of a piece of gravel basically. But this piece of coal would have been approximately the same size. It has been heated in the fire, and a lot of the impurities have been burnt out of it. And it's very light, porous, almost like lava rock or like a sponge, and much cleaner and burns hotter. So this is coal, green coal, and this is coke, which is coal that has been heated and a lot of the impurities are removed. So when we're forge welding, we always try to use coke, and when we're just forging, you turn the coal into coke in the process, so you just use coal. So this is the quench tank I use 90% of the time. I built this many years ago to mimic a wheel quenching tank for wagon wheels. So basically the wagon wheel would have been mounted with the axle here, and the perimeter or the iron rim would have gone through this trough. You can see it's tapered on both ends. Anyway, and I figured that'd be a great way to quench blades. So whenever I edge quench, I'll get my blade hot, and just the cutting edge will go back and forth through this oil until it is cooled to harden the blade. I use used vegetable oil, olive oil, peanut oil, any kind of oil like that for quenching my blades. I have used motor oil in the past, but I find that motor oil is much harder to clean off of the blade. And this is my vertical quench tank that I use on large daggers, and daggers of all sorts basically. And it's just an old welding rod tin that I've kept full of used vegetable oil. I have a wide selection of tongs, all different shapes and sizes, but I use these two pair more than any. So they're both considered flat tongs. As you can see, the jaws are wide and flat and thin, and these are great for holding a knife blade or anything thin like a knife blade. I call these fine tongs. They're just much thinner flat tongs, almost like a pair of needle nose pliers, but a little bit of width there. I made these probably 8-10 years ago. It's still working great. And these are my go-to tongs. So as with the tongs, I have a wide selection of hammers, and all of them have their specific use, but these are my two main hammers. This is about a 2-pound cross peen. It's a very good quality hammer. The face stays clean and non-dinged no matter what you hit with it almost. And it is pretty much the hammer I use most of the time unless I have some really heavy hitting. And then I've got this, it's about a 3.5 or 4 pound. You can see obviously a softer face. I've got to clean that up pretty often, and it's mushroom. But it's also a cross peen, and those are my two main hammers. I actually had to replace the handles recently because they were worn out. So good old cross peen. A good old swage block. And then that feather Damascus dagger I just showed you, I actually quenched it a straight downwards quench since it's double-edged. Here's my good old little giant 25-pound hammer. After you've torn your rotator cuff a few times, this thing is a lifesaver. And this is an addition, a new addition to the shop. This is an Amera braid that I use basically just to rough shape after forging to shape and knock the forge scale off of blades, mostly big blades. It is a time saver for sure, and definitely an elbow saver when you've been filing for 20 years. But it's been a great addition to the shop, really helping me out around here. This forge I did not have last time either. I love the hood on here, old self-serve signs from a gas station. Good old Revolutionary War era anvil. My tinsmith's pick iron. This is a guillotine floor. I'm sure you've seen me use it before in some of my videos if you've watched any of them. And the reason for the name should be quite obvious as well. But this has been a priceless tool for some time. I had a much more primitive version before this that never worked satisfactorily, but this one does great. Get one if you don't have one. It will make your forging so much cleaner. So here we have the acid etch tank, which is 4-inch PVC with a glued cap on the bottom and a threaded cap on top. I use ferric acid, which I buy in dry or powder form, and then add water to. Obviously you can't see down in there very well, but boy, it works great. Much faster than muriatic acid, which is what I used for years. And the tank is in a safe place where it can always be sealed, and I don't have to worry about kids, dogs, or chickens getting in there. This is my annealing bucket. Simply a metal bucket full of hardwood ashes. And that is what, when anything is hammered out that is high carbon and I want it to be completely dead soft or annealed, we'll heat it and bury it in these ashes to cool slowly, and that allows us to work the metal. Now, just like the post vise inside the gun shop, this is also a post vise or a blacksmith's vise. A friend of mine, Gavin, welded this to this stand for me because I wanted it to be movable yet have a heavy base. So we've got an old disc from a farm disc, and this square section in the back is actually filled with lead to give some weight. And then there is a steel plate welded onto the bottom of that, and then the pipe in the center is welded to a piece of 3/4 inch plate. That holds it down pretty good. If you really get to hammering on it, it will walk some, but having such a small shop, I hated to mount my vise in one place permanently because then sometimes you can't fit things in it that you need to. So having a movable stand is nice. And that's pretty much it for the blacksmith shop. I hope you enjoyed your tour of the shop. Be sure to check out all of our latest YouTube videos if you haven't already. My brother and I have been working very hard to bring you some good stuff, and check out our Etsy store as well. I hope you enjoyed the shop tour. Thanks for watching, everybody.